You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Ian, look at this.
What, it's a police box? What on earth is it doing here? I mean, these things are usually on the street. I feel it. Feel it, you feel it?
It's a faint vibration.
It's alive.
Earth Station Who, a fun mashup celebrating nearly 50 years of Doctor Who universe. Hold tight, you never know where the TARDIS is going next.
Who are you?
I'm glad you asked that again. Bit of adrenaline, dash of outrage, and a hint of panic knitted my brain back together. I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe. Now please, get off this planet while you still have a choice.
Hey everyone, welcome to Earth Station Who. That's right, folks. We are still wandering in the lost year and trying to figure out what the heck to talk about. And we got a good one to do this week. We're going back to the 11th Doctor era. And you know what? We are talking about one of the finest. And it just seems to fit right into what we were talking about over on Earth Station 1. We're talking about Neil Gaiman, of course. And we are not talking about the Cybermen story, thank goodness. We are actually talking about the Doctor's wife. It should be a very interesting discussion. It was, Matt's second season as the 11th Doctor, and this is all in the middle of Amy and Rory, and we'll talk all about that type of stuff because I got questions, got thoughts, and it should be a lot of fun. And we got a great guest joining with us from the podcast, This Epic Disaster. Let's welcome Cheri Brown.
Hello. How are you today? Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
It is... I've wanted you back on the Doctor Who podcast, and I know you don't go tons into the old series, so we were trying to figure when is a good time to fit you in. And this is one of the better ones from this era. Not that there are bad ones, but this is one of the stellar ones.
This is a great one.
And I thought it'd be perfect. I thought it'd be perfect for you to join us.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate that, and I'm just thrilled to be here.
You want to tell everyone about This Epic Disaster?
Yes, This Epic Disaster is a podcast that I do with my co-host, Rick. We discuss disasters in life, but mostly we just discuss the disaster that is our own life. We like to laugh. We like to drink beer. We like to talk about sometimes some serious subjects and sometimes just some frivolous nonsense. I'm going to go with mostly frivolous nonsense. So if you want to have a listen, please do. We record once a week, release every Monday, and you can find us at thisepicdisaster.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/thisepicdisaster. We're also on Twitter and Instagram, and you can download us anywhere that you can download podcasts.
It's a fun podcast, folks. Definitely give it a listen. And this show actually evolved out of a show that used to be on the ESO network because it was also Life in a Kilt is how I first met you.
That's correct. Rick and I started a podcast back in 2013 called Life in a Kilt Podcast. And then we took a break and then we started it back up again in 2015. We did probably 69, 70 episodes of that. And you can only talk about kilts for so long. It turned into just the Rick and Cheri show. So we thought, let's just do a Rick and Cheri show. So we put a slow grinding halt to Life in a Kilt, and we started This Epic Disaster. We've now done more podcasts of This Epic Disaster than we did of Life in a Kilt, and it doesn't show any signs of stopping. So again, it's This Epic Disaster, and it is kind of a disaster, but it's fun.
Exactly. And, you will find out more about these two people than you ever wanted to know. It's pretty
Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea. And we post pictures of those things, too.
That's even scarier, almost as bad as the picture Rick posted of no air conditioning.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of when I said that.
I kind of figured. We also have our regular co-hosts for us tonight. And of course, let's welcome Mr. Mike Gordon.
Howdy.
How are you this week, sir?
I'm doing well. It is Neil Gaiman week here on the station. So, all is good.
It definitely is. And we have Mary Ogle with us once again.
Hi, everybody. everybody. It is great to be here. And Neil Gaiman is one of my favorite writers, so I'm very interested in talking about this episode.
It is definitely, because he has been a Doctor Who fan since the very beginning. And I've seen interviews with him, and he said he remembers watching the very first episode of Doctor Who, and the person looked, "You're that old?" He says, "I'm much older than I look."
I think it's to Stephen Moffat's credit that he opened up the doors to new writers that are just getting their breaks to have this episode. I thought that was really nice of him.
It was nice of him to give Neil a chance,
Exactly.
Yeah, because he probably wouldn't have gone anywhere otherwise.
Yeah,
well, look at how
flash in a pan.
Look at how his career has gone since.
We're not talking about American Gods. I promise. We're not going to touch on that one. But yes, it's awesome. We definitely want to hear from you guys at home. So please write us at eswpodcast@gmail.com. And as I've been promising, a new email address is coming. I just have to find the time to do it. It's just been craziness. But eswpodcast@gmail.com is our email right now. So please drop us a line. We definitely want to hear what you guys thought about this episode. Also, quick shout out and thank you to our patrons. That's right. We have been doing amazing stuff with our Patreon, and you guys have been helping to support us on there. We've been posting this episodes of Earth Station Who. We've been posting episodes of Earth Station 1 and the Dragon Con report up there early for you guys. So 48 hours before the real world gets it, patrons get it, and you can listen and enjoy. And, you guys have obviously been doing that. So it's been pretty awesome. And, for as little as 25 cents a week, you could help support the ESO network. And you guys have been doing it, and you've been knocking it out of the ballpark. We have now 4 levels on our Patreon. We have the $1 level, we have the $5 level, the $10 level, and the brand new $15 level. And you guys have been jumping up and, definitely saying, hey, we want to help support ESO. And you guys will be rewarded for it, and we're giving you new material. Just talked last night about doing some exclusive material and podcasts just right for the wonderful Patreons. And, you also get the ESO Network Riffs podcast, which is exclusive for the Patreon. And I can honestly say right now, you guys are going to get the July episode in a little over a week, and you guys are going to get So I Married an Axe Murderer. That's pretty awesome. So it should be a lot of fun to talk about and riff about. And, Mike Myers when he's not being Austin Powers or Wayne. It's pretty cool. So with that being said, you can find our Patreon at patreon.com/ESO Network. Thank you guys so much. All right, Doctor Who news. Still not that much news coming out. Rumors starting to go around about the new season, but we don't talk about rumors here on the show. It usually gets a little too dangerous for us, and usually we get egg on our face when we talk about it. So we're not going to do that. But our friends over at Big Finish have some pretty big news that they've come out with. They are doing a 20-hour live stream. That is right, folks. 20 hours of live Big Finish audios featuring Doctor Who to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Doctor Who on Big Finish. It's pretty cool. Do you guys, Cheri, have you ever listened to any of the Big Finish audios?
I have not. I'll be honest with you. I have not.
Okay. We have started getting into it here on the podcast. Before Earth Station Who, I had not heard a ton of them, but, it's a lot of the older Doctors, but now they're even getting into new series stuff, which is pretty awesome. They're doing David Tennant and Rose stories.
Well, then I would cool. Definitely be interested, yes.
And they also have done, of course, the Diary of River Song. So with Alex Keaton. So it's been pretty cool. And we've been reviewing a few of those. But what they're planning on doing, which is pretty awesome, on July 20th and 21st, the official home of Doctor Who on YouTube will broadcast more than 20 episodes of Big Finish audio adventures featuring David Tennant, Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann, and David Bradley. That's pretty cool, and many, many more. So it should be interesting to see how that comes about and everything. And it's I assume it's pretty much going to be free for everybody. It doesn't say anything about that you have to be a subscriber or pay a fee for it. So should be interesting to see. It's going to be called Doctor Who: The Legacy of Time. And it's going to be celebrating from 1999. The first production was Doctor Who: The Sirens of Time, and it starred Peter Davison, Colin Baker, and Sylvester McCoy. And then it has expanded its ranges to over 850 titles from Doctor Who and its various spin-offs. So, that's a lot of listening for all of us to do. So if Doctor Who doesn't come back, I think we'll be okay and ready for more adventures.
Is it just going to be something that's streaming and you have to catch it while it's streaming, or is it going to be like there for a while so people can just listen to it whenever?
I'm sure I'm looking over it, and I'm sure it'll be up there for a while, and then, I'm sure they'll make money off of it by releasing it on download or CD, as they do with everything they do.
So they're not, I got the impression that this was already existing stories that they were releasing, that they were airing.
It seems like it, because it says anyone joining the live stream will be able to comment and chat along with other fans about the adventures of the TARDIS while hearing audio productions starring the likes of David Tennant, Billy Piper, Alex Kingston, John Barrowman, Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann, David Bradley, Sophie Aldridge, Katie Mating, Nicole Walker, Sir Derek Jacobi, and many more. So you might even be able to talk to some of these people while they're not doing it.
I wonder, though, because the way you worded that, it did say that you'd be able to chat with fans while listening to recordings of those people.
Yeah.
So they might be doing like best ofs or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're doing existing audio dramas, but they're also premiering a new one.
Mm-hmm. They are premiering the Doctor Who: The Legacy of Time, a special anniversary box set released celebrating the 20th anniversary of Doctor Who at Big Finish. The first episode stars Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor, Alex Kingston as Professor Riversong, and Lisa Bowerman as Professor Bernie Satterfield. And does Doctor have room for 2 time-traveling archaeologists in his life? It'd be interesting to see.
That sounds fun. Yeah, that sounds great fun.
Yeah, it should be a lot of interesting stuff. So that's the 20th and 21st of July. We'll have a link up to it up on our show notes. So definitely check that out. But other than that, there's not much Doctor Who stuff other than, folks, Doctor Who's coming back to the movies again. That's right. Celebrating the 10th anniversary of The End of Time, which is David Tennant's last episode.
Yeah, I'm not sure celebrating is the right word, but okay.
Well, think about it. Everyone in the theater at the end will say, I don't want to go.
No, I don't think that is actually what they'll be saying.
Well, exactly. Well, it ends with Geronimo, so maybe. No. So, yeah, it's August 7th, 2019. And, of course, you have to look up to find out if it's going to be playing in your area. I'm sure here in Atlanta, they'll be playing over at, I think the Hollywood 24 and a few other theaters. So definitely check it out. And once again, we'll have show notes and we'll have the links up there. So pretty cool.
Is it just the second part that they're showing?
I assume it's
that was a two-parter, right?
Yeah, I assume it's the 2-parter.
So they're going to show 2 parts.
No, you'll see the full 2-part adventure, including appearances by fan favorite Billy Piper, Catherine Tate, John Sim, Elizabeth Sladen, John Barrowman, and many more. The best part about that was Wilf. He was awesome in that. Everyone's got to love Wilf.
Yeah.
That's the one with Timothy Dalton, right?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes, he was.
Wow. Mary's even got some shade for Timothy Dalton, I hear.
I don't think it's been a while since I've heard Mary sound like this. Wow.
Exactly.
I did not like those episodes.
I'm beginning to get that. Maybe we should review this one.
just to torture me.
Just to hear Mary go on.
Should we do it as a Patreon only?
We do it as a riff tracks. That's
not a bad idea. Oh, Mary, thank you.
No,
You have to.
you're the only one who's going to say thank you.
Oh, I know. Ghost Rider Master. I don't know about that.
Ghost Rider Master.
Yeah. First he comes back like something out of Harry Potter, and then he looks like Ghost Rider. So yeah, but everyone wanted to look like the Master in that one. So, oh wait, he did.
Brown.
Yeah, and then Rassilon with his spittle coming out. Blah, blah. And yeah, it wasn't the best of ones, but it was an end of an era and more ways than one. So maybe we will do it as a riff, and Mary will be up there in front, griping and yelling about it.
Yeah, the end and the end and the end and the end and the end of an era, and then finally it was the end.
Exactly. These are the times of your lives, Doctor. At least with Tom Baker, when he regenerated, they just went, Doctor, Doctor, Doctor. Instead, David had to go and, say bye to every single one. Yeah. Look at the theaters at, find out where it's going to be playing, but that is going to be August 7th. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back.
Hey gang, do you need another podcast to listen to? Well, might I suggest my podcast? My name is Richard T. Yule, aka @NerdyLaser on Instagram and Twitter, and I host the Nerdy Laser Podcast. We specialize in all things 90s and all things nerdy. We are a part of the ESO Network, so visit us at esonetwork.com. Also, nerdylaser.wordpress.com for more info.
Welcome back. Now we are going to talk about The Doctor's Wife, which was the 4th episode of the 6th season of Doctor Who. So we are going back. Wow, I cannot believe we are going all the way back to 2011. Can you believe it's that long already?
Wow. No.
I know. I saw the date on it and I was just like, what? I feels like it was yesterday that we just watched this for the first time. And I don't know if that's because we're just getting old or it's just such a good episode that it was so much fun. And
well, it holds up. I mean, it has not, for me, it was not dated. I have seen this episode about 5 bazillion times. And
I love it. I love it every time I see it too.
I do too. And I was busy this week and I just I said, okay, I'm going to put it on the background to refresh my memory, but I've seen it 5 bazillion times. So I don't need to watch it again. And I was sucked in immediately. Everything else fell away.
Mm-hmm.
All I could do was watch it and enjoy it again.
Exactly. I was like, I got some marketing stuff to do for the podcast. I got to do this. I got to do some new bumper stuff. And let's put this on. I'll have this on in the background. I'll just look up every once in a while. Didn't touch anything else for the next hour.
Nope, me either.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. And I'll be honest with you. It's one of those episodes that stands alone really well. It could have been any Doctor at any time, and the episode itself, the storyline itself, could have stood alone.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, very much so.
There are, I think, 2 sequences that I noticed that are references to the main plot line or storyline of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But apart from those 2 things, yeah, absolutely. This is like a gem in the middle of a season. It is one of the ones that stands out. I mean, there's a reason that it won at least 2 awards,
Mm-hmm.
Well, this wasn't originally written for the 11th Doctor, though, either.
It was.
No, it was written for Tennant.
It was written for Tennant.
Oh, I thought it was supposed to be produced though it was supposed to be produced the season before this though. So it still would have been Matt.
Well, they weren't sure if it was going to be Matt in that season.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that's true.
I've told you the story about that the season before they weren't sure if Tennant was leaving. And so a lot of the stories that were written for that season were written for David.
Wow. Imagine. Hey, look, any of the Doctors could have played this. This is one of those seminal episodes or seminal stories where it's kind of fun to imagine some of the different incarnations of the Doctor in this, because everything about this would resonate with a different Doctor,
Even Collins. Yep. Even Colin.
Well, sure.
Yeah. I'll say it. Sure.
Colin could have done it. He would have been thrilled to have decent writing for a change.
That's true. I don't know how many of the classic Doctors would have referred to the TARDIS as sexy, but
yeah, that they might have had to rewrite that part.
So that might have been a thing for the new Who, but other than that, I mean, because the Doctor and the TARDIS have always been, as long as we've known them, as long as they've been, when Doctor Who first premiered, it had the TARDIS. Like, they've been together. That's been the consistency for the 50 plus years.
Right.
Well, that's the one thing I've always said when we've just been describing Doctor Who, that, when people been saying, oh, I hate this new Doctor, I wish so-and-so would be back. And we always say Doctor Who, the main theme of it is about change. And the great thing with it is the one thing that's consistent is his relationship with the TARDIS. And that came even more to the forefront in this episode.
Yeah, and it's definitely a relationship. However you want to frame it, it is not. I mean, the TARDIS is not transportation. The TARDIS is a partner in his adventure.
Yeah, I don't know when it's established, but I mean, we've watched enough classic series to know that it's not upfront about it, but it is very much suggested that the TARDIS has a mind of its own.
Mm-hmm.
It's never really clarified as much as it is here. And I think there's some instances actually in New Who where it's clarified a little bit more than this. I mean, not as much as this, but I mean a little bit more than it is in the classic series. But in the classic series, it just seems like, it doesn't work, but it just so happens that they end up in places they need to be.
Exactly. The one thing that I enjoyed about this episode the most is that just because the TARDIS was finally allowed to speak, they, thank goodness, didn't make her say anything stupid or anything
not at all.
that would ruin anything. Everything she said was already known. Everything she came out of her mouth, you already knew. One of the lines that she said that was very specific was, when he says, you don't always take me where I want to go. And she says, but I always take you where you need to go. And like Mike was just saying, that's exactly true. That's what she's always done. And we already knew that. So just because she could speak, they didn't try and put a bunch of dialogue in her that would have affected anything past or future.
I think her first words are I can't remember specifically, but within the first few words of sentences that she forms are things like thief, someone's stealing me, like someone's, I'm being stolen, thief, and she refers to the Doctor as her thief, which just brings you right back to, like the first Doctor.
Where it all began, pretty much.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And then later on, when they talk about like who chose who, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, and it's Serenity Jones is brilliant as Idris, as the TARDIS. I mean, she gives such a great sort of otherworldly performance, and the way she and Matt Smith go back and forth. It's such a pleasure to watch. I mean, those two were just having a ball there.
No, Saran Jones is awesome as Idris. And it's interesting because I've been watching her recently on this one show called Gentleman Jim on HBO.
Gentleman Jack, you mean?
Gentleman Jack. Sorry,
right, the one that's on HBO. Yeah.
Yes, and
she's amazing.
She is amazing, and she is amazing in this. And it's just to watch her. She brings the TARDIS to life. The first time I watched it, I had to watch it twice. It was just so blown away by her acting and her heartfeltness. And is this pain? Is the whole thing? This is she doesn't know what's happening to her, and it's just amazing to see. And I love it. This is biting. It's just like kissing, but there's always a winner.
Right. That's a great line. Another line that she says that's pretty great is safe is relative. When the actual TARDIS when House has taken the TARDIS and moved on with Amy and Rory, and then they are building together a makeshift TARDIS so that they can go and save them. When he says, something about safety, and she says, well, this body's about to die in 18 minutes, and this universe that we're on is going to be nothing in, 3.1 minutes. So safe is relative. We're not actually safe right now. And I like her comments there.
No, exactly. And then, you fool, you've always had me. And she does the little thing with her finger and it glows and she powers the TARDIS there.
Yes, that's an amazing scene there as well. And another scene when they're finally about to land in the control room, which I think is great that they used Ten's control room. But when they're about to land the makeshift TARDIS within the control room, and she tells Rory, "Get out of the way, or else you'll be atomized." And he says, "Well, where are you going to be?" And she goes, "I don't know."
Surprise! Good luck.
Good luck with that.
Yep.
So much goodness.
And she was calling Rory the pretty one.
The pretty one. Yes.
I cannot imagine when news of this came out, when news that Neil Gaiman was going to write an episode of Doctor Who, obviously, the community went wild. They were just like, "This is great, this is awesome," because it just seemed like a perfect fit. When outside of that, when it became known that the TARDIS was going to have a voice and be personified, that was a big deal. So you have two really big deals of Doctor Who, sort of intersecting with this episode. And there's a lot of expectations on this. And it's amazing that not only does it meet the expectations, but it completely blows them away.
Oh,
Agreed.
Very much so. Yes.
That in and of itself is not easy to do. That's like going up and hitting a home run or a grand slam your first at bat. It's just, not that Neil's never done this before, but he had, never really written an episode of Doctor Who before. And we've seen how other, since then, certainly, and even before that, we've seen how certain other works of his that have been kind of not done very well. I would argue that outside of Good Omens, which we just reviewed on Earth Station 1 this week, and people should check that out, plug. I think this is the best televised or adapted Neil Gaiman thing ever.
Wow. You heard it here,
Wow.
folks. Yeah. Well,
Also, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead, Cheri.
I was just going to say a point, kind of just an interjection of what Mike was saying in regards to Neil Gaiman's Good Omens, which was amazing. Thank you. And you should watch it, everybody. It was that if you look on who voiced House in this episode.
That's exactly where I was going.
Yes.
Yep.
And he does a great
Michael
job,
Sheen.
too.
Now,
he does an amazing job.
Now, just imagine if it had been actually David that had played the Doctor. How interesting. We had no idea that they would have that chemistry, but yet they do.
Right.
It's so glad they got to experience that in another project,
Oh, very much so. And House was just awesome as the bad guy for this. He was so calm, and he never, like, until the very end, he never even raised his voice or anything. He was just like, oh, I'm not going to kill you guys. I'm going to atomize you. You know, it's just like, it's like, okay.
Sociopath.
Oh, exactly.
Perfect psychopath. Exactly. The perfect psychopath.
Exactly. And it was awesome to have that kind of villain, because you never see him. You feel him, and he's all around you. And his torturing of Amy and Rory in this was just horrific, or as we like to call him in the show, the Kenny of Doctor Who, you know.
Yes. Rory gets to die again.
It was almost getting ridiculous with that.
Yeah.
But that was so well done, playing with Amy's head, and all the times that, you know, how they, you know, Amy, you know, be having the door closed right behind her, and Rory being stuck on the other side, and then her finding what she thinks is Rory.
There's elements of this that are just really creepy.
Yes.
I mean, that nightmare that Amy has to go through is one thing. But prior to that, the uncle and auntie made up of parts of Time Lords.
Yeah.
It's just so disturbing.
Yes. That's a very Neil Gaiman thing, and it works perfectly.
The look, though, on Matt's face when he realizes that the Time Lords that he came to rescue, they're all dead, and their bodies have been, like, all cut up and put into...
Oh, he's furious.
Auntie and uncle. It was just awesome.
And get that furious as 11. Like, he doesn't have that same kind of darkness that sort of 10 had, you know? So to see him get really serious and upset, is especially, like, now it just seems really like he does it really well.
He gets very cold.
Yeah.
Very much so. And
it's chilling.
Like you really see that at the end when the TARDIS is released. When Idris is released back as the TARDIS, and she's exterminating House, and he just goes, like, he just tells her, you know, go get him. Like not a trace. Like, do not leave a trace of this being.
No. And you see this. You see, you know, Matt does have a dark side, and you see it not all the time, because he's usually the weird, goofy guy. But when his dark side does come out, and you see it quite a bit in this episode.
You do, especially when he finds those little boxes in the little mail boxes. When she tells him originally, the boxes will make you mad, and when he finally finds those little messages in the box, and you see that glint in his eye. That's probably the first time you see how angry he is.
Oh, very much so. And I love when House says to the Doctor on the TARDIS and goes, "I've killed hundreds of Time Lords," and then he turns and says, "Fear me, I've killed them all."
Yes.
That was just like blood curdling right there. It was just like, oh, don't get on that Doctor's bad side.
This was also the first time, I think, that we really got to see Rory get into some of his anger, even though it was a fake Rory. If you could just imagine him being the one going off on Amy when she finds him and he's aged, and he says, "They come to me every night and they hurt me, and they come and they hurt me every night." And he mentions, "You left me alone for 2,000 years and you did it again." And he gets really angry, even though it's not really him, it's just House messing with her. Where did House get that from? You know, that had to come from somewhere. So sometimes you wonder if that really does live deep within Rory.
No, that's a good way to put it, actually, because you do, you know, this is all in Amy's head, and House is pulling it out. And, you know, she must have seen it with him before.
It's an interesting counterpoint to, I think it comes later, but with The Girl Who Waited, right? The one where, like, she gets left behind, like a version of Amy gets left behind.
Yeah.
And gets angry and becomes hard and angry. And so it's really kind of an interesting juxtaposition between that. And I think it happens both in this season.
No, I think that's the next season.
Okay.
Or the next part of this season. Because you remember this season, what they split it into two, because this season, this is the whole thing with that they think the Doctor gets killed,
right? Yeah,
by the astronaut.
Yep,
and they just went through that 2 stories before this, and this is actually leads perfectly, Mike, into the question that I actually have for you. You have to realize that's not even the real Amy we're seeing in the story.
But I don't.
That's the whole the ganger Amy.
Right.
That's the fake Amy, and that's going through this
right into the Ganger story.
Yeah, exactly, because it goes into Rebel Flesh from here.
Yeah, but I don't think this really works for that, though. Like,
no, it doesn't. But
you have to. There's no clues in this that it's not really Amy.
No, but like you said earlier, they did the only thing the river in the woods or something.
Yeah, they have the river at the end. River is mentioned at the end. Because that's the last thing that the TARDIS says, because to Rory before Idris goes back in the TARDIS, she says something like that to him.
The only water in the woods is the river, or something like that.
The only water in the forest is the river.
Yeah. And then, of course, in the beginning of the episode, Rory and Amy have a moment because they're like, they're still freaked out that he's dead. And so they're trying not to reveal that to him.
Exactly.
But Amy in particular is freaked out.
Well, of course.
So,
because she doesn't also remember the silence. So that's going on too. So all these little things. Woohoo!
But I mean, Neil does a fantastic job with juggling all of them. And my understanding is, since it was supposed to, they weren't sure when it was going to hit on the schedule and everything like that. So there was a lot of writing and rewriting and doing stuff involved, and yet he stuck with it. One of the things was, of course, he wanted them to be in a classic style TARDIS, instead of David's, like the one for like 9 and 10. But like, I was reading about it, and it said that it was too cost prohibitive, so they couldn't do it. And I'm like, didn't that cost like 12 cents? Like,
wasn't it just cardboard?
Didn't the old TARDIS cost like 50 pence or whatever? Like, it's so cheap looking. Like, I can't believe that they couldn't have done that. But
it could have cost just a lot less than probably those hallways cost.
Yeah. It is interesting seeing the juxtaposition. I'd forgotten what a crazy. We talked about the TARDIS now, what it looks like with the 13th Doctor, and Matt's TARDIS is really hard to get your head around. Like, you shoot it from a different angle and it looks like a different TARDIS, really. I can't say that I love it, but it really fits his Doctor.
Well, it was the steampunk TARDIS, basically.
I actually
the steampunk one is one before that.
I like this TARDIS.
Yeah, because I think of the steampunk one being 9 and 10s.
See, I think this one, because this also has the pinball machine. This also has the ketchup bottles.
Yeah,
this
I would
has,
say it's very steampunk.
Yeah.
And also, he's very steampunk at the end when he's fixing the TARDIS.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about this TARDIS, when that underneath the console, they really worked that into a lot of cool scenes, and Matt just hanging from cables and fixing stuff, and popping cords or whatever. It looks great.
And I love that. I love that story where at the end where he goes, when Amy and Rory say, "This time when you give us a bedroom, can we not have bunk beds?" What, a bed with a ladder? What's not to like?
Speaking of the different control rooms, there's a line when she's telling the Doctor, when the TARDIS and the Doctor are in the makeshift TARDIS and they're heading back to his TARDIS, and she says that I've directed Rory to go to one of the old control rooms. The Doctor tells her, but I deleted those, and she says, no, I archived them. And she says, I archived like 30 of them. And he says, well, I've only recreated it 12 times. And she says, yeah. And he says, well, you can't archive something that hasn't been made yet. And she says, well, you can't. And I love that line.
Yeah,
but
because
that makes you think
she's
30 control rooms.
Yeah. And she does. There is an element to her because she is telling him stuff of his past, but also revealing stuff of the future. So, like,
Correct.
really, it does make it seem like she really is, like, more omnipresent.
Oh, yeah.
Well, she is. I mean, she's across all space and time. So for her, everything's happening at once.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he goes to another desktop the next season. So
It's true, which I much preferred, actually.
Well, it went right into Capaldi's. So
Yeah.
because it pretty much was the same thing, just evolved a little bit. But it was gorgeous to see. And I was so happy to see 9 and 10's desktop again. It was like, I love that one.
Yeah, that was fun. I think that actually worked better than using a classic one anyway. I mean, for
The color blue is so soothing in that one. It just, I want that light in my bedroom. That's like the light coming from the walls and the control panel. That blue, that sea blue, is just really nice.
Really, it worked really well too, color wise, with the green that was represented by the house.
Yeah,
because I thought that element, like if it had been one of the classic series ones, it probably would have not maybe gone over as well. But I had forgotten too until watching this that speaking of TARDIS consoles, the one that they sort of create out of a bunch of parts on the planet was actually the result of a contest winner of Blue Peter, which works out way better than the villain.
Way better.
Oh, don't even mention that villain. Nope. Do not.
No. Look, that was Mary's first episode with us. How can you say not?
It was her favorite episode.
It was her favorite episode.
It was a episode. It was quite absorbing.
A lot.
So give it up for Suzanne Leah, who the 12-year-old who created that little console.
Awesome!
Great job.
Yay!
No, I thought it all worked amazing. I thought the Ood cousin was very spooky.
That was creepy.
Oh yeah, especially when Amy was in the dark and she started reaching out and fell in the tentacles. It was like, oh.
Yeah,
I've never thought that was creepy.
I've been in dark rooms and I felt things I shouldn't have felt, so I could understand that. Yeah.
Well, watch where you're putting your hand next time.
So,
be careful of oods. Yeah, but it's weird that, and I don't know, is this the first time we'd seen the Ood since the Satan Pit?
No, we saw them in Tennant's last.
Oh, right, it's like the one with Donna, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
So, but we haven't seen Ood since though. But we are going to see them this season, right?
Rumor,
yeah, right?
Yeah,
rumor.
Yeah, exactly. But it was interesting because when Cousin got destroyed, 11 said another Ood I couldn't save.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh man.
Yeah. That's too bad.
Mm-hmm. But it was really interesting, and the story, it flowed there was no dead points in the story. Sometimes you have a couple, like, as we say here in the States, commercial breaks, but like sometimes in even the hour-long stories, you have a little bit of downtime and everything. This story just flowed just constantly. There was no stopping in this.
Agreed. It didn't feel like it was. It flowed very well. Some of the action scenes, once it got going, it never really up and down. It didn't lull at all, but it didn't feel as long as it was because of that. It felt like the story just came through and then it was just done. But there was so much dialogue and so much information that you kind of almost had to watch it a second time just so you could pick up those little gems.
All right.
I think it's definitely one that the more you watch it, each time you watch it, you pick up something different and it enhances it.
Yeah, you just
agreed.
The more you get out of it, this is one of those ones. I think I could watch it another 5 bazillion times and never tire of it
I probably will. Well, here's a big question actually. Was this storyline the first time they actually talked about Time Lords changing sex?
I was
He does say that.
I was wondering that
sorry.
myself.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because
I did notice it, though. I was like, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's right there, you know. It was right there at the very beginning of the story.
I'm not sure if it's the first time or not, but they definitely make a point of mentioning it.
So I was just like, I was watching that and I was just like, oh, because I was like trying to race my mind behind if there were any times before that. I know, like, you could pick other species and stuff. Look at what Romana did in the old series and such, but you know, you never saw her change sex. Or they even talk about it.
I don't think it's ever mentioned in the classic series. I would find it difficult to believe that would never be mentioned in the RTD years. Because it seemed like that's something that he would have brought to the table.
Yeah, I don't remember that, though.
But I can't think of anything specific. So maybe it is. Maybe it is. That's something that I know we got people who are listening that are like, "You stupid idiots!" It was mentioned like on this episode.
That's every episode they do that to us, Mike.
That's true. That's true. So so I expect in the comments when we post this, people will be saying which episode it was mentioned prior to this, and I can think of at least 3 people that were probably catch up.
Oh yeah, we'll get emails, and you know,
and I love those 3 people. So.
As well, you should.
I have a question. I have a question for the 3 of you as well. And this, I did a little research on Reddit, and this might be a little controversial. And if it is, I apologize. Oh dear God, no!
Not controversy on this show.
So, okay, in the makeshift TARDIS control room that they create on the planet from bits and pieces of old TARDISes that they get into. When it lands and or takes off, or one or the other, and both, I can't remember, it makes the sound.
Yes.
Okay? There is an episode prior to this one in which River Song says that the only reason the TARDIS makes that sound is because he leaves the parking brake on. So, are we to assume, and that's the controversial part, everybody went nuts over that, you know, well, does every TARDIS leave the parking brake on, or maybe TARDISes just make that sound, and they thought she was being uppity and or know-it-all. Either way, I liked that episode. But do you think that the fact that the makeshift TARDIS makes that noise as well, that he just left the parking brake on again? Or is that actually the noise that TARDISes make? Because when River says that in the other episode, she actually turns it off. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think the Doctor just doesn't know how to fly the TARDIS without the parking brake on.
I think, and I love me some River. So I say this with a lot of love in my heart. But much like the Doctor, River Song lies. And she will say what she will just to get her point across. And I don't think you should take anything that she says with too much seriousness like that. There's plenty of examples in the classic series where there are other TARDISes that make that noise.
Yeah,
there are
kind of her thing to tease him.
There, yes, and also another thing about like when Idris reveals herself as the TARDIS to convince the Doctor, she makes that noise. Now she doesn't even have so like that's just the noise. That's the noise of a TARDIS. I think even did the Masters TARDISes make that noise? I believe he did. It did.
Yeah.
So
when the Grand Clock disappears,
that everybody leaves the parking brake on is just ridiculous.
I think she probably just said that to get under his skin or something.
Right.
Yes, I think she said that.
I agree.
Like, make a lot of like Doctor Who geeks like do the math and try to figure out all this stuff and create a little like mountain of a molehill. Because River's,
and why not?
River's exactly like.
Yeah. The only reason I even brought it up is because I went back and I watched that episode, and she does actually flip a switch and turn the sound off. So Whether that's the parking brake or not, it's hard to say. But that's the only reason I even brought it up, because if she had just mouthed those, if she had just said those words, if she had just verbalized that, it would have just, for me, and even still now, it does feel like you said, Mike, it's just her teasing. It's just her trying to get under his skin. And because I still feel that way.
In that same sequence, I believe in that same sequence, she mentions that she was taught how to fly the TARDIS by someone brilliant, which of course we find out later was the Doctor.
Was him.
No,
was him, right? So
no, it's the TARDIS that teaches.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It was the TARDIS, right? Sorry. So, is there a switch that can turn the noise off? Yes. Is it really a parking brake? The fact that the TARDIS has a parking brake is just kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But I just
wanted to bring it up.
I like it. It's still a good line.
Yeah.
It's still a great River line.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a husband and wife thing to say to each other.
Yes,
it's just like couple bantering. It's not really meant to be taken seriously.
So here's the question I have for you guys. Since we're talking about River, it really does kind of lend itself to this episode, which is called The Doctor's Wife, which of course is not a reference to River, although River is mentioned at the end, which is kind of interesting. But, and obviously there's companionship, there's love between the Doctor and the TARDIS. What do you think of the title? Because it's never really mentioned in the actual episode of them having a husband and wife relationship. Is it kind of it's kind of an interesting title, but does it really fit?
Well, technically, the Doctor is pretty much married to the TARDIS. Or it could be called the Doctor's mistress.
I mean, it's certainly the partner that the Doctor has been with the longest.
True.
700 years, according to her.
True.
Mm-hmm. So you could say that she is his life partner, whereas his wife, being River, is, a physical partner. But again, now, you could really dig into that if you want to dig into different gender relationships and how people, different relationships that there are. Family, what makes a family? Who's your wife? Can you have more than one? You can really go into that, but I don't think we want to be on the phone that long. So I honestly think that the Doctor would give up anything for the TARDIS. Therefore, she is his life partner. Or it is the Doctor's life partner. I hate using the gender pronouns like that.
Sure. The Doctor's life partner doesn't have as good of a title sound to it than the Doctor's wife. So
no, it doesn't.
So yes, I understand that. And maybe, that, Neil could have, I don't know. I mean, look, who am I to question Neil, right?
I don't think Neil's the one who came up with the title. I think that's Stephen Moffat.
If he wants to use that, then that's fine. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Stephen Moffat.
Yeah. But I just found it interesting because there's a lot of flirting in this episode. He names the TARDIS Sexy. That's what we find out in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been her name. So trying to adhere that to the classic series is just mind-blowing. But certainly it's more interesting, probably more fitting to see, New Who refer to the TARDIS as sexy.
I loved it, though, when Amy was like, that's the TARDIS, huh? And it's like, did you really wish really, really hard for a girl?
Exactly.
Right.
You wish really, really hard. That was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. Because once, the Doctor refuses to believe it, because she has to convince him that she's the TARDIS. And once he realizes that it is the TARDIS and they can talk, he's very excited.
Yes.
Of course. And that's one of the wonderful things about it. And then when she said, oh, my name is Sexy. And Amy was like, of course it is.
Yeah. Here's the odd thing about Matt, though. Matt has a way of being excited even when he's talking in terms that are like sexy, that is sort of not really like very sexual, if you know what I mean. Like, it's just, I don't really feel like this romantic sexual energy from him.
No, that was one of the great things about him was, how Tennant was all more human, and, the whole thing with him and Rose and the crush that Martha had on him and such like that, where Matt's doctor was more alien. And even like when Amy kissed him at the end of the one storyline with the Weeping Angels, his eyes opened wide and was like, what is this? Yeah.
Right. The same thing happens when the TARDIS, when Idris kisses him. He's like, like freaks out like a 10-year-old.
Well, exactly. Mm-hmm. And then the only one he really enjoys kissing is River.
But even just a couple episodes before this one, when he drops her back off at prison and she kisses him, even then, that was supposedly his first time kissing her, because he says that's never happened before. When she kisses him, even then, he's not sure what to do with his hands, and he goes on his tiptoes, and he's, there's not a whole lot of sexuality there at all with him.
That sounds like Mike in 10th grade. It was really awkward for me.
Heck, sounds like me like yesterday. I think it's a great dynamic though that Matt just owns, because he's just so awkward about all of that stuff. He really feels like asexual, or certainly alien to those sort of concepts. So I just find it interesting, because I think, the one thing, I love the River storyline, how it plays out and everything, and the fact that they get married. But the one thing that always kind of, even though they have great chemistry, they don't have great sexual chemistry. It's not until later when you have River with Peter Capaldi's doctor that I think you feel the romantic sexual chemistry between the doctor.
Oh God, yes.
Or even prior to that with David Tennant and 10 and the River.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure I totally agree with that.
No.
Completely. But I will say that I think that relationships he's not human. Relationships mean a very different thing. They look at it in a very different way, I think, as Time Lords. And I mean, especially since you're not limited in the same sense, with time or even with physicality, because you're going to change. And so it's Matt, I think, was very good at playing being the other, being the alien, being a being who just doesn't think of things in the same way as a human would. Not that the relationships don't mean a lot to him.
No, right.
Not that he doesn't care or have compassion and empathy, but he just, he doesn't feel about them in the same way, because he can't, because he basically lives in a whole different universe than we do, with different perceptions.
No, agreed.
I think that in this sense, going back to what he calls the TARDIS, i.e. sexy, he names her sexy. I work with a lot of tech nerds, and when a new gadget comes out, all of us call it sexy.
Yeah.
And
or it's like a guy with a new car,
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I think the whole the one attraction, speaking of Matt and River, or Matt's doctor and River, is that when he does kind of go, ooh, sexy, when he's talking about River specifically, he's in love with her brain. And that is, of course, just another gadget, if you think about it in a technical term. So when she comes up with something very intelligent, that's when you get to see little glimpses of Matt kind of, oh, who's this girl kind of thing. And that is the attraction. He's attracted to her brain.
That's and that's interesting. I mean, it's kind of, yeah, well, that's a whole other, like their whole relationship is a whole other podcast, but which at some point I think we would cover. But I just find it interesting because, obviously with this season in particular, I think with an episode called The Doctor's Wife, and, I think it's not very long after this that it's revealed that like who River is, that certainly during Matt Smith's era, that you're kind of like, oh, well, he's got 2 wives, or I'm confused, but
well,
I know that it's not literal here, but I just find it interesting as the title.
Well, I also think that the title was a little bit controversial, and that was intended.
Oh yeah.
That got people
obviously,
to watch it and to talk about it.
Absolutely. I mean, I know for a lot of people, especially classic Doctor Who fans, the very idea of the Doctor having a relationship just blows their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
in a bad way.
Well, that goes back to classic Doctor Who, though, because the Doctor technically was married once before, since he had a granddaughter.
You don't need to be married. I don't know if you know this, Mike, but you don't need to be married to have a daughter.
What?
It doesn't always take a mommy and a daddy.
No, it's true. And he could have been his own spouse.
Lord and a loom love each other very
much. Whoa.
Right.
All right. Hold. Put a stop. Nope. We're not going any further there. That could go a whole nother episode right now.
Pride Month is over.
Yeah, wait. Nope. Hold. All right, let's get some final thoughts on this before we go ahead and rate this, because we're going down a deep, dark path right now.
See, and you thought your question was controversial.
Wow. Okay. All right. Let's see. All right, Cheri, let's. Any final thoughts or anything before we rate this from 1 to 5 TARDISes? 1 being the worst.
I would definitely give this one 4.5, and I say that because I think that, like we've talked about before, all the points, it flows well. It's got great dialogue. It doesn't reveal too much. It doesn't reveal too little. It's action-packed. Ultimately, if your listeners haven't watched this episode in a while, I would recommend going back and watching it. What I did specifically was I started at the beginning of the season, because this is only episode 4. So I started with episode 1 just to kind of get back up to speed. But you don't need to do that, because this is a standalone episode that I think rates at a 4.5.
Awesome. Mr. Mike.
I'm going to give this a 5. I can't imagine this concept being depicted any better than it is here. The acting is great. It is a standalone. I mean, any Doctor Who fan can watch this and relate to it, I think, to the extent of being the Doctor, having, the relationship with the TARDIS and everything. I think it's great fun. It has some really creepy elements to it. And yeah, I would put it right up there with, like I said, Neil's best, like the adaptations of Neil's like best stuff, like Coraline and Good Omens, and this are the 3 that immediately come to mind. Some of the others that I've seen have mixed results, including, unfortunately, his next foray as a Doctor Who writer. But
no, totally true. Totally true.
Oddly enough, if it wasn't for his experience with the next one that he wrote, with the Cybermen, he probably would not have become the showrunner of Good Omens. And so we have that to thank because he wanted to make sure that nobody messed up Good Omens, that it came out the way he wanted it to. Unfortunately, it burned him out of being a showrunner, and he said he's never going to do that again. But I hope that we do definitely see his contributions to adaptations welcomed in the future.
No, totally makes sense. All right,
I hope he's not done with Doctor Who. Sorry.
Oh, I hope it would be great to see him write for Jodie. I think it would be awesome.
Yeah, he has said that he would like to, and I hope he gets the chance.
Chris, if you're listening, please. Please. All right, Mary, go for it.
Oh, I'm giving it a 5. I mean, there are probably some things you could nitpick, but I don't care, because it's brilliant. It holds up. I mean, it's really there's a lot to get out of this episode. I mean, we didn't even touch on how it's about manipulation and perception, and House is manipulating the situation to achieve its own ends, and the Doctor does that too. But the difference is compassion and empathy, and that really comes through here. and perceiving what are relationships, what is the TARDIS, what is the Doctor, what is the world, and it's just playing around with all of that, and even the going back and forth between the way time is portrayed and how time is not linear, and it's just brilliantly done. And just I have seen it a million times, and I immediately was sucked in and had to watch it again, and I would still watch it again over and over. It just, every time it holds up. I highly recommend people to go watch it if you haven't seen it.
Agreed completely on that one. Truthfully, come on, folks. If you haven't seen this one, why are you listening to this episode? Come on. Not that we mind. No, never, ever, ever. We never mind you listening. But go watch it. Come on. We've been spoiling the crap out of it for the last hour or so. But yes, I'm going to give this one a 5 also. Cheri, you were slacking. I'm sorry. But
no, I'm not slacking. Hey. I don't give anything a 5. I don't give anything the best thing they can get.
No, the reason I'm the reason I'm giving this a 5, truthfully, it is, to me, the best Matt Smith episode. I love a lot of the Matt Smith stuff. I'll put this one out there with any of them. And I think this one will beat it hands down. I think this is probably one of my favorites of the new series. It is solid all the way around, solid acting, story writing, acting, plot, everything. And it's a standalone. And like we've said throughout this episode, this one basically is, could be any Doctor. You could, change out and it would work. I could see even, old series Doctors in this. Some of it would, like we said, had to be changed, but I'm willing to put this up there as, try to beat me with any of the other Matt Smith stories. I don't think you can. And you know what? I'm going to throw the microphone down on that one.
Mic drop.
Sorry,
I'm going to drop myself.
Sorry, I'm just trying to picture William Hartnell calling anything sexy.
Now listen here, you. Get back in there now. No.
I just wonder if he ever used that word.
Or I'll hit it with a rock. That's right. So, yes, definitely, please, we want to hear from you guys at home. eswpodcast@gmail.com. Prove me wrong. So, there. Ha! I've laid the gauntlet. And my name is Mike Gordon, so you could put it that way.
That's all your letters to Mike Gordon at.
But definitely, let's thank our guests for being here tonight. Cheri, it was awesome to chat with you tonight.
Oh, it was great being here. And just one more plug. If you are listening and you want to hear some nonsense, you should definitely check out This Epic Disaster. You can get us anywhere you can download podcasts. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/thisepicdisaster, or just our main page, which is thisepicdisaster.com. This last episode, we talk about nakedness and eating meat. So good luck with that.
Wow. Okay. And we'll have
thank you all for having me. It was great chatting with all three of you.
We'll have a link up in our show notes for it. And, if you're a beer connoisseur out there, these guys know their stuff, and they got some good stuff that they beer taste every episode. So
yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Another reason to listen to them. All right. Let's thank our regulars for being here. Mary, thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It was wonderful to be here. I love talking about this episode. It's one of my favorites.
It was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, it was so much fun. And if anyone wants to see my artwork, you can find it at maryogle.com or on Etsy at eVision Arts.
And Mr. Mike.
As always, it's my pleasure.
It's always great to talk to everybody at home, but we will be back again in a couple weeks. And we are going to actually have a friend of the show back on. And we are going to be talking, of course, to our friend Dan Duza, and he was on a couple of months back when we did his Doctor Who, a Feminist show, when he was one of our panelists, and we decided to have him back and talk about some of his favorite episodes. And we actually brought it up earlier in this episode. So we are going to be talking all about the Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit. So we're going back to the 10th Doctor. More ood all the time. So we get to have more tentacle fun. So it'll be interesting.
More ood going to meeting their deaths.
Yeah.
Exactly.
More ood we did not say.
Exactly.
Oh, ouch, ouch.
Ouch.
Too soon.
Too
soon.
No, it's only been 12 years. I think we could live with that. I think we could deal with it. So it'll be a lot of fun. But until then, my name is Mike Faber. We will talk to you here next time on the Earth Station Who podcast. Peace. And we're done.
Yay!
You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a bi-weekly pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talent from across the universe. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individual and are used for entertainment value alone. You subscribe to our podcast up on iTunes, Stitcher, or follow our blog at www.esopodcast.com. You can also follow us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. If you enjoyed the show, please leave feedback up on iTunes.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.